In the modern day, the most prominent or mainstream cosmology is that of materialism. It's the idea that something can come from nothing. This idea of a big bang, that time, space, matter all arose from a random explosion of nothing and that it was created in a single instance for no particular reason. Explosions typically are defined as being very destructive, but in this scientific theory of the world, it somehow produced consciousness in all the intelligent life that we experience today. I want you to ask yourself one thing. Which came first? Matter or consciousness? Or let me say it this way. Is consciousness a product of matter, or is matter a product of consciousness? Is consciousness physical? I'm only asking it that way because we need to get straight to the point. The occult, or what we know as ancient philosophies brought back to the modern day, and other spiritual New Age philosophies, completely contradict our modern viewpoint of the realm we live in. Yes, these ideologies make absolutely no sense in our current world model of the globe and space. This video will break down the lunacy of the globe model, but doing so through different means. This isn't a physical approach. I'm not going to try to prove it to you through what we call proof in the modern day. Eric Dubay has great videos that show problems with the physical aspect of the globe model, but instead, this video will take a spiritual approach. Many people already understand many of these New Age concepts, but still, somehow, they've blended these ancient concepts with the modern cosmology of the globe. That is where the contradiction lies. There is an agenda at play, a scientifically run utopia that is corrupted through politics, completely removing God and spiritual realities. But the utmost importance is to remove any possibility for occult students to develop in this new society. In this materialistic, scientifically run society, we are taught that we evolved from monkeys, that somehow after this Big Bang, single-celled organisms begin to appear. Then gases and small ice particles begin to form into planets that then collide into one another to create our moons and solar systems. This is all just random coincidence in the eyes of science, and I know many may have specific alternative explanations of the universe like string theory, or it may be beyond our comprehension. However, to keep it simple, you can break it down into two main categories. There are two main cosmologies that most people we know subscribe to. For those who may not know what I mean by cosmology, this just means the universe you live in, a realm or world with a set of laws. There is a cosmology of something and a cosmology of nothing. If matter came first through the Big Bang of nothing, then consciousness is a product of matter, meaning that consciousness is physical, something came from nothing. Very important to note. In a little bit, we will speak on the contradiction of modern New Age movements that still belong to a materialistic cosmology. Materialism has many forms, and it feeds into many modern practices of spirituality as a virus in the background, because these beliefs about cosmology are on some of the most deepest, most fundamental levels of our consciousness. In short, our modern cosmology teaches subconscious and conscious atheism and nihilism, that everything in existence is solely physical. Many still see the world through a certain lens, and refuse to look into any other way of thinking simply because they cannot imagine it to be so. But this is more due to the indoctrination that they have been given from today's modern societal dogma. This is done through a variety of topics such as globe earth, false history, aliens, and counterculture hijacks such as the psychedelic culture and the New Age spiritual communities. We have educational propaganda, and then we have societal or cultural propaganda. We see this with the memes and mockery of flat earth, as if the sheep herd themselves. Now, I guess I should just go ahead and address this before we go further to the people who may be very resistant to hearing this information. We're not flat earthers. Just because I'm doubting the validity of the globe model and NASA doesn't mean I associate myself with the physical flat earth cosmology. Many flat earthers understand these concepts. However, it's usually misunderstood by the masses because of the Aristotelian critical skeptical mind that in almost all cases has no training in the occult. These people mock the flat earth and praise their political scientific data that has been funded and pushed for in the education systems as their source of knowledge. Many are becoming aware that the news in the modern day is largely fake, but still refuse to accept that the news in the past was equally as misleading. This is not a new phenomenon. It only becomes easier with modern technology. We are trained to see the world in a certain way. I think the honest reason people don't want to let go of the globe is because they grew up with the sci-fi genre, or they follow Elon Musk and actually believe that he put a car in space. Regardless, there are many things that could be said about NASA, its past, and plus, the heliocentric model is only from the past 400 years and couldn't even be proven, as they say, until the 1950s. That's if you buy the whole space race story. Remember, it's common knowledge today that we have fake news, but if someone is to bring up that the moon landing may have been a hoax, all of a sudden that's too far for some people. You don't think NASA and space was political? Well, it was, just like race relations and climate change have become their own industries in the modern day. Well, NASA was one of these deceptive industries. The organization takes in billions of tax dollars and simultaneously becomes a vehicle for promoting this new spirituality of man. There's this grand idea that we can leave Earth and go colonize other planets, asteroids, or moons. We grew up convinced that there's an American flag on the surface of the moon. Basically, this is all new stuff. Aliens, flying rocks in space, or what we call planets. None of this was believed until very recently on our modern timeline. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, they knew of planets in the past, but they were not terrestrial. The planets were always associated with astrological qualities. They were spiritual forces in the sky. These internal forces were influential not only for worldly affairs, but for our own individual personalities. This is what was believed for thousands of years. But none of that makes sense if we have no purpose, and we're monkeys flying around thousands of miles per hour around the sun in a galaxy that is traveling 1.3 million miles per hour. When, how, or why would the stars have any meaning? They're just balls of gas. How could they be integrated with the personality or within the mind of man? A common question is, okay, so you aren't a flat earther, but you also don't believe in the globe, so then what else is there? The cosmology of the ancients. We're not taught the true occult viewpoints of the past in the education systems. Man, in the modern day, is seen as a monkey, as but an evolutionary and chemical process that came about for no reason at all. In the ancient cosmologies, the mind of man was seen as a reflection of God, as the center of the entire universe. The stars, the planets, also known as wandering stars in the past, would revolve around the mind of man, influencing world events and attributes of personality. Our modern-day education system teaches a heliocentric cosmology, in a universe that randomly came to be from a Big Bang, and this explosion created matter somehow from absolutely nothing. And then over time, planets begin to form, water appears from nowhere, and then intelligent life forms through evolution, but finally, most mysteriously, came to form the mind of man. The mystery schools of the past preserved an ancient knowledge, and this information has traveled through Hermeticism, alchemy, the Renaissance, the Rosicrucians, and all the way up to even the modern New Age movement. A lot of things are actually based on truth. It's just that it's being distorted by mixing with the reality of the modern materialistic heliocentric model of the universe. The two are two separate beasts. You have one, which is a cosmology of materialism, which really is just a skeptic's attempt to debunk metaphysical realities. And then the other cosmology, which is the cosmology of the ancients, a hierarchy of spiritual planes. Now, we can dive into any one of those topics to explore them further, but the hierarchy of spiritual planes is very important to understand in order to really be able to explore an alternative cosmology other than space, Big Bang, and planets. I'm not trying to speak to those who easily gravitate to this material, but more so to the mind who may be resisting it. I know this sounds all quite spectacular. Did you know that many of the most successful minds in history have belonged to this ancient cosmology? Yes, even the founding fathers of America. Some of the most successful celebrities in the world even belong to this ideology. And it is that the mind has some sort of superiority or influence over matter. They believed that will alone had the power to bring about change in the material realm, that belief had a play on fate. Now back to what I was saying about two different cosmologies. The first cosmology, which is that of the ancients, is that of something. This is because all came from source, or something, and there will always be something, eternal life, rebirth. This cosmology is a hierarchy of spiritual planes. We know these planes in the occult as the physical, etheric, astral, and mental planes of consciousness. In the second cosmology, the cosmology of the modern day, is that of nothing. All came from nothing, and all there will be is nothing, because nothing matters. The cosmology of the modern day is nihilism, and yeah, I'll explain how by just believing in the globe, you fall into the trap of nihilism. That doesn't mean in your heart you are a nihilist, it just means you are being controlled spiritually by nihilist philosophies. For those who don't know what nihilism is, it's an ideology that resulted from the modern day cosmology of Big Bang that concludes that there is no meaning to life, and so nothing matters. And rightfully so, as they actually understand the implications of their own cosmology. Even modern day spiritual philosophies have been overcome by this deadly ideology such as Taoism. I honestly believe in the past, this concept of chaos was interpreted as light, not nothingness. It is pure ether. But these people in the modern occult circles have lost their spiritual ancestry due to prescribing to modern day cosmology such as space travel and the globe model. Hence, nihilism is rampant throughout our culture. We're going to start with the cosmology of nothing. We will break down the history of how this cosmology came to be so that you can see how this virus of nihilism has infected the human race. It is a foreign ideology and it is a parasite to the mind. I think another aspect to understand is historical fraud and the amount of rewriting that has been done to the history books. It's not only that our entire timeline is messed up. We have many videos on this, and this kind of belongs more to the Tartaria aspect of our channel, but in order to understand the history of nihilism and the globe, you need to understand somewhat of an alternative history. Look into our Tartaria Explained series and you'll learn how certain groups of people took over our history and spirituality. It all starts with Aristotle. We all learn about him in schools as laying the foundations of our modern way of thinking, the skeptic's mind, the philosophy of materialism. That if it can't be seen and it can't be proven, then it doesn't exist. Plato is a good representation of the ancient way of thinking, that all matter is but a manifestation of spiritual forces, or as he called them in his metaphysics, forms. Both Plato and Pythagoras were both initiated into the occult secrets by the priests of the ancient mystery schools. Aristotle was a political figure that threw over the old paradigm in order to hide the ancient ancestry of man. We will see how Aristotle's philosophy has been idolized by the elites who gave us our modern-day cosmology. This philosophy was taken by the Jesuit Venetians, who then became Venetians, who are the ones who created our modern scientifically run society. That might be a lot to take in, and many may be still confused about the timeline. I understand this can sound bizarre, a lot of effort has gone towards skewing the timeline. For example, you may be thinking that Aristotle lived 2,000 years ago. This worldview that I'm trying to share with you is on a completely different timeline. And like I said, you're gonna have to look into some other content to grasp what I'm implying. But check out the Tartaria Phenomenon Explained or Fomenko's work on chronology. But yeah, it's likely Aristotle may as well just be a figure created by the priest. Either way, in his politics, Aristotle is most explicit. His theory of the purpose of politics is to maintain inequality. The very basis for Aristotle's politics is the maintenance of the master-slave relationship, because it is, as he asserts, natural. Quote, that one should command and another obey is both necessary and expedient. Indeed, some things are so divided right from birth, some to rule, some to be ruled. It is clear then that by nature some are free, others are slaves, and that for these it is both just and expedient that they should serve as slaves. It is true that Plato even makes a case for slavery, but unlike Aristotle, Plato bases his state on the idea of justice. The reason that Aristotle was so widely influential in Venice is that Venice was a slave society based on the principle of oligarchism. Some of you may be thinking, okay, well, what does this have to do with Venice? Our modern heliocentric model and globe model came from these scientific political minds in Venice who believed it is their natural right to rule those who were born to be slaves. Yep, that's right, the globe theory is but a political spiritual agenda created by the University of Padua in Venice. Copernicus, funded by Venice and political agendas at the time, went to Padua. Galileo, funded by Venice and Padua. Kepler worked with Padua. This group of atheists, who ruled the entire world at this point, who praised the ideology of Aristotle, have undermined not only our modern education and history, but our spiritual philosophies as well. The goal is to control the power that is consciousness, to enslave us, because it is the natural order of things and they have the power to do so. That's their philosophy. There's more to be said on history, but let's connect this with the modern nihilistic philosophies. Now, try to imagine that all these categories are a child of this cosmology of nothing. Alright, so we have aliens, evolution, Freemasonry, globe model, hollow earth, occult nihilistic philosophies in the modern day, and the space sci-fi genre. Now, I know aliens can be a very touchy subject, but I always start the same way. There are only two cosmologies, that of nothing, materialism, or something, that of spirit. The modern understanding of aliens belongs to the cosmology of materialism. Now, before I explain, I know there are many personal experiences, and we even have supposed whistleblowers with all this secret military information being exposed now. But I think it's become even more obvious that this is some type of propaganda when you see Fox News, NASA, Forbes, History Channel all promoting this idea that aliens are real. This is just counterculture propaganda. The CIA has done this with every culture group, and that's a deep subject on its own, but the idea is to collect the individuals who find interest in a particular subject and undermine that collective through these underground belief systems. You have mainstream science and education, then you have alternative research / spiritual collective of people who follow ESP, the paranormal, and aliens. It's all grouped into one category. This alternative information, such as aliens and consciousness having influence over matter, or in other words, magic, has been hijacked by this group of people who want to create a scientifically run society where all that exists is that which is physical. Aliens, or at least the way the modern media portrays it, are either 1, other humans or other advanced life forms from this very earth or from underneath it. 2, spiritual beings or higher dimensional beings. 3, military technology. Or 4, lies created by NASA. Now for number 1, many follow the theory of hollow earth, and this is usually something that resists them from pursuing other cosmologies that completely contradict the globe model entirely. There can still be underground realms and planes beneath this realm in the cosmology of the ancients. A matter of fact, in the Vedic cosmology, there are multiple levels to this universe, and there are realities beneath this earth plane, and beings can come from below into this realm. There's this famous magazine from the 1900s called Amazing Stories, and a writer named Richard Shaver wrote to the editor Ray Palmer a 10,000-word document entitled A Warning to Future Man. He wrote of advanced prehistoric races who had built cavern cities inside the Earth before abandoning Earth for another planet due to damaging radiation from the sun. Now, this is a perfect example of truth mixed with propaganda. The information was mixed with the globe model and the concept of flying through space, visiting different planets willy-nilly. This is just fantasy created in the 1900s. It started with H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. This was propaganda before television. And so, an age of Planet Nibiru, Anunnaki, Zachariah Sitchin, Eric von Daniken, History Channel with ancient aliens, and alien abduction stories reenacted have led the public to fully believe that aliens exist in some way or another. It's usually the extremely religious who resist this information because they know it contradicts their cosmology. Well, it does, because it belongs to the cosmology of nothing, the cosmology of materialism. Ancient Aliens says that these beings could be our gods, and so science has to subtly lean towards the possibility of aliens, which was created from sci-fi writers simply to explain the nature of consciousness. We are led to believe that these beings engineered us and made us similar to themselves, that they are God. But again, this makes no sense. Who created them? Oh, they have some other creator alien. Who created him? And so on. Eventually, they need to come from somewhere. But this is what they do. They play the Marvel card and mix occult and modern sci-fi concepts together. Bam, there you go, it's explained. But wait, is it explained? I think they completely contradict each other. These alien gods belong to the Big Bang cosmology, whether they mention it or not. And sure, you can believe in string theory or try to tie in occult concepts to explain how these alien gods were created, but it doesn't explain anything. I'll say it again, it's either the cosmology of nothing or something. It can't be anything else. If it's something, then it always has been and always will be. The light, ether, source, God. If it's nothing, then somehow something came from nothing. The only explanations are string theory and Big Bang, and they make no sense. They're also not practical, that's the big point, because I'm not playing the game with the skeptics. Well, okay, just because there isn't a current explanation doesn't mean that there is some foreign variable some unknowable third cosmology that we just can never know because it's outside of our understanding. No, that's just not practical, and you're just a nihilist trying to find a way out. The occult has practicalities. It has real-world effects and skills or faculties that can be developed from it. Nothing can be developed out of the modern-day cosmology but nihilism and pseudo-skepticism. It's simply an escape to say, I'm okay with not knowing, meaning being agnostic. I can understand many would not know that they're a nihilist. That's because it is the mid-ground between being a conscious occultist, an agnostic, and a conscious nihilist atheist. And I need to clarify, I'm categorizing right now. By occultists, I only mean those who belong to the cosmology of something, or a hierarchy of spiritual planes. Those who believe mind over matter, the religious, the Gnostics, those who practice the ancient mysteries, such as Hermeticism, alchemy. And I understand some Christians may be upset with being categorized as occultists, but it simply means that which is hidden. These matters are of occult means. They require a mind that can peer into spiritual concepts/realities in order to gain a closer relationship with God and self. The agnostic, or one who's willing to admit that they just don't know, is a subconscious atheist, who sometimes find interest in some of these spiritual topics, and in their heart they may better fit one of these spiritual perspectives of the world, but due to social and educational conditioning, has been persuaded by other areas of interest that have shaped their worldview, such as aliens, hollow earth, and space travel. The atheist or nihilist is one who idolizes the power of knowledge that results from modern-day science, forming their own fantasy on how this realm was created through unproven theories such as Big Bang and evolution. We have no problem with science, but education became political hundreds of years ago, and since then, industries have been created on this fraud, such as NASA. Why is NASA lying? First, you have economical reasons. NASA gets paid billions a year for creating CGI. 2. The CIA recruited Nazi scientists in Project Paperclip, and we're talking high-ranking Nazis like Wernher von Braun, who was fundamental in creating the rockets that went to the moon, supposedly. 3. Then we have the idea that we didn't go to the moon. It's kind of crazy that they lost the footage to one of the most historic moments in human history. And I mean, it's obvious how weird and strange these astronauts were behaving when they got back from the moon. And it just so happens to be that most of these astronauts are also Freemasons. 4. NASA has Freemasonic and occult connections. Their symbolism is quite occult and always references ancient occult forces of the past. The Jet Propulsion Lab is one of the world leaders in space exploration, but many don't know that Jack Parsons, one of the founders, was deep into the occult and even practiced magic and had sexual relations with Aleister Crowley. We have propaganda like 2001: Space Odyssey, created by Stanley Kubrick, who worked with NASA and Disney, the top visual effects industries at the time, in order to create a certain viewpoint of the capabilities of space travel. This is very important, for they were trying to brand the future of space travel, as they were nowhere near the technologies presented in the films. But this gave the public the imagination to visualize these ideas as reality. There are many conspiracies that link Kubrick to the filming of the Apollo 11 moon landings. It's also said that he left clues in his films, such as The Shining. The symbolism is the start of religion of an alien god, space travel, removing the focus from us being the center of the universe. In this cosmology of materialism or atheism, the agenda is clear: to create a scientifically run society, perhaps even with an alien god. But the goal is to remove the god within man, to explain the universe through physical means, and to remove man from his center in the universe. Aliens, other Earths or planets, all belong to the cosmology of nothing. The origin of the modern UFO story seems to correspond with the establishment of the CIA. Quote, an extraordinary 95% of all Americans have at least heard or read something about unidentified flying objects, and 57% believe they are real. Former US Presidents Carter and Reagan claimed to have seen a UFO. UFOologists and private UFO organizations are found throughout the United States. Many are convinced that the US government, and particularly CIA, are engaged in a massive conspiracy and cover-up of the issue. The idea that the CIA has secretly concealed its research into UFOs has been a major theme of UFO buffs since the modern UFO phenomena emerged in the late 1940s. But what if it was actually in reverse? That they created this whole phenomena to cover advanced military technology, or to hide other breakaway civilizations that possess advanced technology. And so, this modern perspective of aliens was propagated through the entertainment industry. It started through the fantasy era of the late 1800s, such as with H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. Many of these popular authors could have been cover-ups for a hidden hand to feed in nihilism through the medium of fantasy, while the right brain was in full active potential. This eventually led to the sci-fi genre in the 1900s, which was created by design in order to start preparing the society for a new cosmology. Aliens changed everything because now there's an explanation on how consciousness or life formed. They say one thing in the mainstream, which is Big Bang, but in the alternative communities, they feed information such as aliens may be our gods. Even the concept of Anunnaki was created by Zecharia Sitchin, who worked for the CIA as means of propaganda. Modern Taoists believe that there is some primordial chaos, this nothingness, that precedes something, but they're just interpreting ancient beliefs for themselves from their current modern cosmology. Which is funny because Taoism is all about navigating yourself through a perfect life, using divination practices such as I Ching. Why would or how would divination work on a physical, materialistic explanation of the universe? Why would you even want to try to find the best path for you? There's no purpose to do anything. The psychedelic communities are also filled with nihilism and this idea that it's all meaningless. We're just dust in the wind. I could go on, but basically nihilism is prevalent throughout all our culture, but it feeds into other ideologies such as New Age concepts that blend spiritual communications with aliens with the sci-fi genre of planet and space travel. Now, I should also explain that there are higher beings and intelligences that you can communicate and experience through your mental faculties. However, many of these stories of Pleiadians and ETs have been blown out of proportion by mixing two different cosmologies together. Now, some may say, well, what if they both exist? It's just based on consciousness or your belief. But that's not so, and it's not practical. You can't just believe that we live on an apple. The occult faculties of man contradict the modern-day globe model. Why? The globe is a rock that somehow magically formed water after millions of years of combustion. There are laws, and this goes back to what I said about the occult being practical, as there are results that follow. That is the proof. That's how you debunk the globe cosmology. It is the faculties that result from occult training, whether it be alchemical or religious, that completely contradict the modern-day cosmology of the globe. If you have physical questions such as, well then, how does this work on a flat disk? Or why do planets look spherical? And so on and blah blah blah. I'm not here to do that. I said at the beginning, I recommend Eric Dubay. He's a great reference for answering all those questions you may have in a sense of breaking down the globe model from a physical viewpoint. But I want this to be seen from the mind of an occultist, because then it will become obvious that there are indeed other planes of existence that one can navigate to with the soul in mind. These planes, as they have been called in the occult, were originally proposed without the need of a globe explanation, for there was a much more ancient doctrine, one that had existed for thousands if not millions of years. There's still no explanation on how the ancients had such a thorough understanding of the stars. This knowledge was passed down after the flood, and mankind lost touch with its golden age. It's not easy trying to explain that to a skeptic. I mean, so many things have to be addressed before even getting to the point, which shows how complex our minds have become. Pythagoras was said to make his initiates remain silent for 2 to 3 years before he shared his secrets, as this was necessary to achieve the mind that would be capable of handling these skills. Which moves us on to our next section. What is this other cosmology and how does it debunk the globe model? Because mind over matter does not work on a globe. Astral projection, telepathy, astrology, spirit guides, ghost, ESP, and magic show that the mind has capabilities of influencing realities through non-physical means. This means that mind has some sort of superiority to matter, in that even after death, the mind continues to exist, as many ancient philosophers wrote. That mind is not just a physical body, but that he is of a dual nature, that of mind and body, and that the mind, which was also known as the soul in ancient circles, inhabited the body for a short time before moving on and being reborn into another vehicle. This philosophy belongs to the idea that there are planes of consciousness. Check out our Astral Plane Explained series and I break this down. That's a good place to start if the occult is new to you. Many have really rejected religion, which is what makes them have a more materialistic perspective of the world. They begin to lean towards science and atheist philosophies, but modern religions have been used as tools for the church to control the population. Many of the things that people laugh and mock the Bible for are but analogies for occult secrets, such as astrotheology. All religions were created from the knowledge of the ancient mystery schools. I can understand many people's resistance to the concept of a Christian God. However, that's not what I'm preaching, and more so, I'm trying to bring forward ancient ways of thinking back to the modern day so that it can be used practically in order to debunk the modern world cosmology that has been used as a tool for suppressing the power that we contain within our consciousness. Not only is the practical aspects of the occult proof for debunking the globe, but there are many signs of purpose and intelligent design all around us if you just have the eyes to see. We have eclipses. What are the chances of this happening perfectly in our solar system? We have plants that seem to have been placed here for us, as they have medicinal and spiritual uses, as if they are creating chemicals specifically designed for us. Do they fully understand our biology? If so, what are the implications of such advanced design in such a randomly created universe? Sacred geometry is but a representation of the nature of this realm. Many see the same visuals in altered states of consciousness, but we can find these patterns all throughout nature. Now, in modern science, the education system teaches that consciousness is in fact physical. But this is but a recent belief due to particle theory. Before this, there was the theory of ether, or the universal source of all. Niels Bohr wrote that, quote, "Isolated material particles are abstractions, their properties being definable and observable only through their interaction with other systems. In other words, no atom or subatomic particle has an isolated, separate existence. No material particle has independent properties or location as distinct from any other. At the atomic and subatomic levels, no thing is separate from everything else. There's just one field of pulsating energy that compulses the entire physical universe. It has been called the ether, the field, the quantum field, the zero-point field, and many other names, all referring to this essential, energetic oneness." End quote. British astrophysicist Sir Arthur Eddington said that physics is the study or the structure of consciousness. The stuff of the world is mind stuff. We now shall explain the cosmology of something, or spirit, or eternal mind, ether. These categories belong to the cosmology of something. The ancient mystery schools, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, religion. And we also have New Age concepts, but most of the time these are mixing with concepts from the cosmology of materialism. Many mystery schools in the past were established in order to develop the God within man. All of these mystery schools belong to the cosmology of something, or spirit, in which there is a hierarchy of planes, the top being the Godhead. At different times, the techniques used by these schools involved sensory deprivation, breathing exercises, sacred dance, drama, hallucinogenic drugs, and different ways of redirecting sexual energies. These techniques were intended to induce altered states of consciousness, in the course of which initiates were able to see the world in new ways. The ancient Druids, the Greeks through the Eleusinian mysteries and the oracles of Delphi, Pythagoras, and many other cults such as Zoroastrianism devised a series of rituals and practices in order to clearly show to the adept the reality of this cosmology. They were put into self-isolation chambers and forced to face their greatest fear, all to prove to the initiate that this realm is but a product of mind. The neophyte would experience astral projection and even be shown rituals that would cause real-world effects. This knowledge is also very ancient, very well could be from Atlantis, as it is said that Thoth is said to be an Atlantean in the Emerald Tablets. Therefore, this knowledge is from a past age and has existed for ages. How else did such a perfect art of astrology and magic form randomly? These mystery schools were trying to preserve this knowledge. These are the people who are trying to preserve the knowledge of the last age. They knew political tensions were rising and began creating hidden schools in order to train occult students. The Druids are one of the oldest sects and keepers of ancient knowledge. The Druids were considered to have a deep understanding of nature. They were said to have studied geography, physical science, astrology, and theology. Their knowledge of medicine was advanced for their day, and they were even known to have performed surgical procedures. Many of the rites that we have seen in many other cults and religions are derived from this ancient order. Gnosticism is another concept that I feel that has been slightly altered and influenced by modern cosmologies in many ways, even mistranslated. However, I feel that this concept of knowingness, through navigating different planes of consciousness and experiencing knowledge face to face, creating wisdom, contains much truth. Jesus was said to be an Essene. The Essenes are masters of the mystic state of mind, and they could astral project to other realms of existence with the angels. All the world religions all come from what we call paganism, or divine attribution through analogy, which is magic, the symbol, object, and subject. Kabbalah in the Tree of Life is a graph of God and his attributions. He's divided into different sephiroths, or planes of existence, or metaphysical realities. But more so, these are states of consciousness. They are qualities, but you can actually go there and experience them with your consciousness. This is exactly what I was referring to with the Essenes. They were practicing a similar system. The Kabbalah is basically a roadmap for your mind that was said to be created by the angels. Really, it was just passed along from ancient occult orders and landed into the hands of the Jews. To summarize, all these ideologies belong to the reality of spiritual planes of consciousness, that man is a mind and a body, and that a body is not what we call a physical body. I should probably explain that actually. So in the cult, a body is not just a physical body like your skins and bones, but it's simply a vehicle for your consciousness, meaning you can transfer your consciousness to other bodies or control many bodies at the same time. More explained in our Astral Explained series. Each plane has a corresponding body, and these planes are part of a system where the top plane has superiority to the plane below it. The very top plane is the Godhead, otherwise known as ether or infinite source. This energy then feeds down to each corresponding plane of consciousness, influencing and creating the realms below it. For simplicity, the God plane feeds energy down to the mental plane, that then influences and creates the astral plane, that then influences and creates the etheric plane, that then influences and creates the physical plane. This is not only a matter of theory, but can be put to practical use through occult faculties. What are occult faculties? Senses, skills, and abilities that must be gained through everyday use and practice that allow the practitioner to experience these other planes of existence. Thinking must be developed. Ponder the nature of a thought. What is imagination? We have names for these faculties but have forgotten their full potential. These faculties that we call thinking and imagination can be developed into entirely new phenomena, such as astral projection, telepathy, and magic, which allows the user to make changes in the material realm through thought alone. This can be experienced and put to the test, and then you can come to your own conclusions. What are the implications from the results of these practices?
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?